Good evening to all the participants. If you could just please confirm, we had a bit of a technical issue, and if you could just let me know that you could see and hear me. Could I please confirm whether you could hear me? Excellent. A warm welcome. We today welcome to the General Skill Migration webinar. We have a very large number of participants. So in the questions and answers session, we might run into some difficulty in relation to answering all your questions, but we also have this General Skill Migration webinar on Facebook Live, and all my relationship managers who are highly skilled will be able to also answer your questions on Facebook Live if your questions was not answered through the Zoom program. Right. So let's keep moving, and just a very brief description about myself. I'm a registered migration consultant, and I'm also a member of the MIA, and I come from a CPA and FCMA background, and we have been in practice for almost 17 years. And yes, that's 1 year more, 18 plus years of experience. We have thousands of successful migration stories, and we have 20 partnerships and branches and 30 plus employees. So we are generally represented in Sydney and Melbourne, Melbourne being in the main office. We also have a full-fledged office in Colombo and Dubai, and also in London, UK. And all these offices are manned by very highly skilled relationship managers, and some of them are in fact registered migration consultants. Right, we move on. What are we going to talk about today? So our content will cover general skill migration, types of visas, skill occupation lists, what is state government sponsorship, requirements for the general skill migration, the criteria, the points test, and so forth, the process of general skill migration, what is involved, tips of how to have a successful application, and we could recap. Now, I want to say this general skill migration webinar has been timed at a very crucial time. And the reason is, as we know, during COVID time, general skill migration almost came to a standstill. And now Australia has serious skill shortages. The government has identified this, and some of you who may know the process where we have lodged expressions of interest, very generous numbers. We're talking about something like 35,000 invitations came on one day in November. So there can't be a better time to move on if you have already started with your general skill migration ambitions. No better time to push on. And if you were thinking of general skill migration, it's a time to get going before this rush comes to an end. And that is why we are having this webinar. Now, introduction to a general skill migration. I'll go through these things very quickly. Now, I also understand there could be participants, three kinds of participants. They are people who have already had the visa application lodged, either by yourself or perhaps through your consultant. Some people who have lodged expressions of interest and not too sure, been there, languishing for some time, what's happening to my expressions of interest. And the others who have been thinking about general skill migration and thinking, okay, let me listen to what this webinar is all about. And Australia is a country made up from migrants. So much so, for the time that the COVID time, where obviously there were border controls, border restrictions, people couldn't come in. And suddenly when things have opened out, what has actually happened is this is a country about migrants. The country develops economically, socially, it develops because of migrants. And when that stops, it comes to a grinding halt. And that's what has actually happened, where employers are finding it very hard to maintain minimum standards because they really want people. So I will, at some stage, I will touch on another topic, which we call employer sponsorship, but they're all embedded in the general skill migration program. But today I'm going to concentrate on not really employer sponsorships, but I touch on that again, as I said, but it's about, okay, who can come in, what are the point system, how does it work? And I won't be going into some very specific things, because I'm sure you will be able to find out through the internet and so forth. Now, a bit of housekeeping rules, if I can please request you all to leave the questions to the questions and answers time. But at the moment ongoing, because I would be able to, I'll be interrupted with my presentation, but should you have some urgent question that you want to ask, please do so through your Facebook Live too, because there'll be a panel of relationship managers who are waiting to answer your questions. Right. So general skill migration is about a points test, your age, your qualification, your work experience, how much of English, state sponsorship, what is your partner's qualification if you're married, what are the partner's English standard, and so forth and so forth. So moving into types of under general skill migration, we have three main categories. Excuse me for the that skill occupation list coming up there. So the three main visa subclass are the subclass 189, 491, and 190. And I'm going to explain what this is. 189 is an independent visa scheme. This is for people who have what we call occupations in the medium to long-term skill occupation list. For example, engineers, accountants, doctors, motor mechanics, chefs, all these will fall into IT, software engineers, and a lot of IT occupations. They fall into the long-term skill occupation list. And that is the 189, independent. How many points do you have to have? 65 minimum. Will 65 give you an invitation? Maybe, maybe not, because you're subject to the competition. Then comes, and it's a permanent resident application. Then comes skill nominated subclass 190. What happens here is Australia is a country which their management of the country is really have autonomous groups. That is the states. The states have their own premiums. They work like different countries to a certain extent. They have their parliaments, and so they participate. And what they do is they will tell that in the state of, let's say, Victoria or the state of New South Wales, who are the people they want? Where are the opportunities? Where are the employment opportunities? And what are the lists? And what type, how many years of work experience, all that they would. So there is a very large quota of the entire general skill migration given to these states. So each of the states will have their quotas, and these quotas will, nobody really knows, but it does come in and it closes, it comes in, and we have to be ready every time that that they open up. So what happens there is they will give you also 5 points, and if we can tick all the boxes as per the state government rules, which is what we call the 190, what happens is they will give an invitation. They will give an invitation through the immigration department, and we can apply for the visa. What is the difference between the 189 and 190? I said the 189, you can only apply if you have occupations in the medium to long-term list. But however, in the 190, You can have occupations in the medium to long-term list and also the short-term skill occupation list, so long as the state government is happy to sponsor you. Right. So that's the difference in the 189 visa and the 190 visa. Let's talk about the 491 visa. 491 visa also is something that happens through the state governments. But the state government wants the applicants to be ready to give a commitment of at least staying 3 years in regional Australia. I'm not talking about, when I talk about regional Australia, I'm not talking about the desert or some unknown place. Australia has regional centers. If you take for Sri Lanka, I'm sure the majority of the participants are in Sri Lanka. Colombo is the city. We have regional centers, Kandy, Galle, Jaffna, Mathura, and so forth. So just like that, Australia also has regional cities, and they would like people to go and live in those regional cities. Now, that is really only for Victoria, which is the Melbourne is the capital, and New South Wales, where the Sydney is the capital, and Queensland. You can stay anywhere just outside the suburbs of Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. They are all called regional. But if you talk South Australia, the entire state of South Australia, entire state of Tasmania, entire state of the Northern Territory and Western Australia are regional. So you could be in the town centre and still apply for a regional visa. So the difference there is the different state governments will, what they would do is they will identify who is wanted in those regional areas. Again, they will determine the occupation. It could be in the medium to long-term skill occupation list, or it could be in the short-term skill occupation list. So that's anybody who wants to go into general skill migration. All these three are available, but anybody in the short term, only 491 and 190 naturally is available, because you need to, otherwise for the 189 you need to have. So that's how it happens. Now these occupation lists generally change, but it doesn't change very much. It's quite sort of slow in changing to requirements. We do know these days there are good old days where they have the similar kind of occupations, but there are new occupations with, we have things called web developers and data analysts, and sometimes some of these occupations take a long time before the department decides to come in. So let's talk about the state government sponsorship. One of the very important things in state government sponsorship is that you might have to meet the specific criteria. So you have the main criteria to get your 65 points from whatever the immigration department tells you. However, if you want to go through a state government sponsorship, they would have specific criteria in relation to work experience and in relation to the level of English for people in Australia. And all this, what I'm talking about, is common to people outside Australia trying to come into the country as migrants, and people in Australia. Now, you ask me, why do the people in Australia want it? We have, as you know, we have a huge student population here, and they get temporary visas after their studies. Then they get work visas after their temporary visa. So these people are in Australia too, vying and competing for these positions. So there will be different rules for onshore applicants and offshore applicants. Now, there is something very important that I need to say. When you go through a state government sponsorship, there are certain obligations. The state government of Victoria will say, look, we are sponsoring you, we are nominating you, not for a job, but we're nominating you for the visa. You need to, when you get the visa, please stay in our state for 2 years and contribute to our state. So that's why I said they are like different countries. So they do compete with each other. Now, application process. I won't want to go into too much of detail, but what it actually means is that there is a process involved. And from state government to state government is different. So we lodge an expression of interest with the immigration department. We lodge a register of interest with the state government. of Victoria, and they will wait for those invitations to come to apply for the state government sponsorship. And if you're successful, we will get an invitation. Right. Let's move on. Eligibility criteria. Some of you will be quite familiar with it. Age must be under 45 years of age. English language. There are so many tests that you could do, IELTS, PTE, and so forth, and qualifications. So for every occupation, there is a relevant qualification. If you're applying to be an engineer, you need to have a professional qualification. It's a 4-year degree. If you're going to be an accountant, you need to have an accounting degree or maybe pass your CIMA or chartered. A lot of occupations. Let's say that you're a chef or a motor mechanic. They don't need a bachelor's degree or anything like that, but they would have to have a diploma, a recognized diploma. Work experience. Now, certain occupations, we have what we call a very important thing, which is the skill assessment. Excuse me, skill assessment, it can be done with or without experience. It depends on the occupation. Now, example for an accountant, can without any work experience can apply, but will they be competitive? Will they get enough points because they have not? That's something that we need to think of. And the points test. So what I said is age must be under 45 years of age. English language, to apply for a general skill migration, a minimum score of IELTS, competent English, minimum score of IELTS 6 each or PTE 50 each must be obtained for any general skill migration application. Don't forget that will not give you points, but if you get an IELTS score of 7 or a PTE score of 65, you get 10 points. And if we go on to PTE 79 and IELTS 8, then yes, what happens is we will get more points, 20 points, right? So a bachelor's degree will have 15 points and age. There will be brackets. I wouldn't want to go in today and bore you with these sort of specific criteria. Then you're subject to the health and also character. Very important, the character checks. Wherever you have lived in the world, you need to provide police reports if they have stayed there for more than 12 months or more. Okay, so moving on to the points-based system. So as I said, we need to get 65 points for the general skill migration application. But higher the points that you get, you would have more chance of getting an invitation. So people ask me, how many more points do I have to get? It's something very difficult for a migration agent to explain. But the criteria is that you keep on pushing to get more and more. I think on the English language requirement too, I have spoken about it. And one of the things that I think will interest lots of people will be the process involved. Now, the process is determining eligibility, right? First, if a client comes to us, we will check the eligibility. We'll look at the age. We'll look at the potential English and tell them to, okay, go and do the English. We'll look at their qualifications, work experience, and other criteria. Then what we also do is choose which visa category that person. We try to go with every possible. The 189 we talk about, the 190, the 491, but we'll discuss, we give the options saying whatever comes first to pick it up. Now, let's say that we lodge a expression of interest with the state government of Victoria on a 190. Do we just stop at that? No, if we think that the Perth has an opportunity, we lodge multiple. So that's what relationship managers do for you, is to maximize the opportunity of getting an invitation by having as many expressions of interest in the system. Then we've chosen the subclass and we've lodged, and to do that, we need to have what we call the skill assessment. The skill assessment, as I said, some without work experience, some with work experience. And there's a lot of work on the skill assessment. How do you present the information? How do you prove that you've been working? What documents? So every occupation has its own assessing body. Some take accountants, it'll be either by the CPA or Chartered Institute or other IPA. Take engineers, it'll be by the Engineers of Australia. Take engineers and look at a qualification. Now, one person would come and say, look, I have studied at Moratuwa, a university or Ruhuna University, and then there'll be some people with other qualification. We have something called the Washington Accord. So should they have done their studies and it has been accredited by the Washington Accord, you don't need to present anything. You can present the qualification and you'll get a skill assessment. If not, other engineers are also recognized, but they have to do something called competency demonstration report, 3 career episode. So this is where that we would get involved and guide the applicant step by step. Now, then once the skill assessment is done, once the English is done, that's when we actually lodge an expression of interest or multiple expressions of interest. And in some instance, we have to also lodge when it's state governments are involved, and depending on which state government that you're going to apply, we would need to then have a situation where we lodge and also what we call another expression of interest that is called ROI, registering of our intention to apply. Then once we have that, we have to maintain that. We have to maintain the expression of interest. So you'll ask me why you put the application. No, you might get into one the next age group. That means you might sometimes the points may come down. If somebody from 24 to 25 means they get more points, or if somebody goes from 32 to 33, they points reduce. Qualifications don't change anything, but work experience, yes. So for a person offshore, as soon as they complete 3 years of work experience, they'll get 5 points. As soon as they complete 5 years, they'll get 10 points. As soon as they complete 8 years, they will get more points. So it's a live document, right? Then a person who would get married, the 10 points being single will go off, and then we have to find out what the partner's qualification or what the partner's work English level is, and therefore we will be lodging what you call and updating the expression of interest. We have to be very mindful. English skill assessment. Then for people who have been in Australia, they do something called a professional year for especially engineers and accountants and so forth. All these accreditations can expire, some in 3, some in 2. So that's another thing, because if you do get an invitation and any of these things have been expired, you have lost a golden opportunity. So it's extremely important to have your expression of interest live, valid, up to date. Now, the next one would be then if you do get an invitation from the state government, you apply for the state government sponsorship, you get an approval, and then you will get an invitation from the Department of Immigration and you lodge a visa. When you lodge a visa, what documents to give? How do you have to, how you give these documents, and so forth and so forth. So, and then wait for a decision. There are times that the department will come back and ask for many additional documents or clarifications. So that is where we would need to provide them with certain submissions. And once you arrive in Australia, we also try to assist them people in guiding them with their employment of job, just settling in process, and to keep in touch, get some advice from their relationship manager wherever they have been. So how long does it take? A question that I cannot answer. Some have some phenomenally low processing time, some can take longer, and we don't have guidance on that. So that's something that we may find very difficult to answer if you do ask your relationship manager. Supporting documents. This is just a very quick, this is sort of most probably pretty obvious: passport, and the passport has photographs, English results, education qualifications, skill assessment, work experience, financial documents, ability to support. Now, when it comes to the financial documents, People ask, do you have to show money? My initial say is no, but certain state governments will ask for some proof of funds because specifically they want you to come and not get into difficulties in Australia till such time you find a job, till such time you find a place to live. So there are times that they ask some questions around financial, and this happens mainly on the 190 and the 491 applications, and that also from state government it can be different. So it's really important for us to provide the necessary documentation to the department. And what is very important is you never ever provide a document which is false or misleading. That will have serious repercussions on your application, and they have enough intelligence to find out whether this information is correct. There could be times if your application is a risky application, they could always pick up the phone and get in touch with your education institution, find out whether you actually studied there, get in touch with your work place and find out whether you actually work there and the type of job that you did. So be very mindful. Always take the advice of the migration agent and absolutely tell the correct situation. Right. So tips for a successful migration, increasing your chances of success. That's what we'd like to know. What is it? So choose the right visa class based on your skills, qualifications, work experience. Remember that we also manage the expressions of interest. You might lodge a 491 and a 190 and a 189. What is the better one of this? 189 is independent. So sometimes when you qualify for all three, you do put that, but specifically the 491 visa. That's something that I have, I'm sorry, I need to mention. A 491 visa is not a permanent resident visa. It's a 5-year visa, and you need to live in regional Australia for at least 3 years. I'm not talking about at a stretch. You can go up and down, leave the country, but live in that country for 3 years and be working, you or your spouse working for 3 years. Very important. So then there is what we call, we have to comply with that visa. If you only comply with the visa, that you can apply then for what we call a 191 resident visa, because you complied with your 491 visa. But should you apply for a 189 visa, nothing, no issue at all. You're independent. You can live wherever in Australia. But the 491 and 190 has certain obligations. So therefore, it's your relationship that has to manage what is the best visa that I can get you. But look, if you get an invitation for a 190, do you let it go because it's only 60 days, or do you wait for the 189? What chances do you have on the 189 visa? These are things that that you need to consider, and working with whoever your migration agent is. Now, choose the right visa class. That's what I was talking about. Meet the eligibility criteria. You must remember that the English language requirement. Now, certain times I said minimum 6. I'll take IELTS as a benchmark. Minimum 6. No, certain occupations you have to get more than 6. Guess what? Accountants, they can't manage with 6. They have to get 7 each. Academy, because of the fact that in order to get a skill assessment, there's a higher English level. So, and then to apply for the correct skill assessment, make sure that you maximize the points correctly, not incorrectly, because you heard, once you lock in 75 or 85 points or 90 points, you need to substantiate everything. You can't say, look, I can't substantiate 90, I might substantiate 80, pass mark is 65. No way. If you've got an invitation at 90, you better show that you have got 90 points in all the areas. Now, the other thing is to provide an application to the immigration department in the correct manner with the supporting it, and to make it easy for the case officer in the immigration department to quickly approve your visa without asking for more and more information. One of the other things is to stay informed about the changes. Immigration policies change quite a lot, and always seeking the guidance of a migration agent or immigration lawyers if necessary. And one of the things that migration agents do is to manage the expressions of interest, EOI is what you call, and manage that. Be in total control of those. Yes. Now, the GSM visas can be visas. The competition can be very high. So it is like, I'll take an example. Let's say that we take engineers, civil engineers. So let's say there are 3,000 civil engineers that have been who have lodged expressions of interest, right? And they have different types of marks. So the department will say, look, we'll give 200 people the opportunity. So who will be the 200? The 200 will be the people who have the highest points. So that's why it is very important to maximize your points. Right. Now, I also want to touch on this employee nomination scheme. The reason being, when I've talked about general skill migration, I always said there is competition, there is uncertainties. You lodge expressions of interest. When will I get my invitation? There are a lot of uncertainties. But when we talk about employee nomination scheme, is that if you find an employer who is willing to sponsor you in Australia, this can be a person, applicant can be living in Australia, applicant can be living outside Australia. But if you do find an employer who is willing to sponsor you and who have identified your skill set as pivotal to their running of that business, then they are in a position to sponsor you. But it's not easy, because why I say it's not easy is they have to go through a process. They have to go through two main processes. One we call labor market testing. They need to advertise in the papers and certain platforms that for 28 days and open up for applicants who are already living, who are permanent resident citizens or eligible New Zealand citizens living in Australia. So if they can prove that they did not find somebody with the sort of skill set that you had, who the employer was willing to nominate, then the company can then go to the immigration department and say, look, I want this person. I tried to find people and I couldn't, right? So that is where an employer nomination scheme works. There are also, I like to show there are three different ones where if you have your occupation in the medium to long-term list and have 3 years of work experience, employers can sponsor you for permanent residency directly. Sometimes employers may not be happy to sponsor you for permanent residency. They will be willing to sponsor you for a work visa, check your work, and then move on to your permanent resident visa. So it's something, these visas are something very similar to what you get in the Middle East. You go for a period of time to do a job with a particular employer. But unlike in the Gulf, what you have is opportunity for you to apply for permanent residency. I have seen many of my clients who have come on what we call a 482, that's a work visa, to Australia, and they work their general skill migration in the background. There's lots of expressions, so nothing to stop that, right? But if you are to be sponsored for employer nomination under what we call a subclass 186 visa, you have to have an occupation in the medium to long-term skill occupation list. And there are great benefits because an employer has sponsored, so there is some sort of loyalty to the employer, so that the employee will work hard and the employee is happy. It's a win-win situation for both, and it's not subject to quotas, or not that I know of. It's not subject to quotas where if the employee is willing to sponsor you, you have got the qualification, you have got the work experience. We go through the process of what we call the labor market testing, and there are some other payments that has to be made by the employer to the government for employing a foreign employee as opposed to a permanent resident citizen. So we guide you with that, and we work with the employer and the employee closely to get a good outcome. But the good thing is the process goes on. Other than in general skill migration, there can be always bottlenecks. Right. Now, we also, if we would like all our participants today and who have registered, there are many people who have registered, and today we have many on Zoom, is to make sure that I'm sure our team would send you what you call the subscription to our newsletter. We have a very informative, colorful, I should say, and a lot of thought goes in to this particular bulletin. It's not technical, it's really good, interesting articles. Please read them. And that is something, it's free, and it comes every month, between the first and the second. If you're in the mailing list, you would get it on your email. And in the future, we have identified Australia has some serious, as I said at the very onset, skill shortages, and therefore we have many employers who have worked with us in the past, and in the presence of finding employees, and they have really come to us to sponsor the people they have, and says, look, I've got this really nice person, he has just finished studying, I want to keep him, what can I do? So we have assisted, and we are now building a database of people who are suitable for general skill migration, absolutely free. Information is kept confidentially, and match them up with potential employers. And we will be actively going out and promoting what we call a recruitment drive, and specifically with employers. And then we will be having a very it's on at the moment, so you could register with our database for employer nomination. And so we go and find employers and say, look, we have these employees that may be suitable for your organization. And if you, and as I said, many of these organizations do have issues with skill shortages. So yeah, watch out for the space. Keep, you can have it registered, no obligation whatsoever, no cost, no obligation, but with the potential of why is your general skill migration application is going, that we look at employer nomination too. And on the other hand, there are people who register with us for potential employer nomination, but we also keep an eye on whether they can go through the general skill migration with the point system. You don't have to duplicate the cost or duplicate all the, whether you do English for one, the English will be suitable for the other. When you do the skill assessment for one, it will be good for the other. Right. Common mistakes to avoid. Okay. Mostly the opposite of the tips is not researching and understand the requirement and the criteria for visa subclass, not meeting the minimum age category. One of the biggest mistakes people make without proper advice, or sometimes even with advice, is going and overestimating your points. Let me take an example. I need to take an example. Somebody comes and says, okay, I've got 5 years of work experience as an accountant or an engineer. And we look at it and say, yeah, it's got 5 years experience, so we can claim 10 points from offshore. No, you can't. Why? Because we don't know whether that work experience was after the qualifications. Now, it gets more complex, because some occupations you need to have post-work experience. Some can be in the middle of studies and after. That's very important. And some occupations, the skill assessing body says, okay, you studied, you got your bachelor's degree in 2018, up to 2020, your work experience cannot be claimed for points. So it's a maze of work experience would have to be very carefully monitored when you're claiming your work experience points. Now, excuse me. One of the other things is not being informed about the changes that are taking place, and missing out on information requests, because the department gives you 28 days, and if they don't get get the information that that they have asked for, or at least you have not tried to get the information, they'll give extension. There will be dire consequences which have been refused. So this is very important, and that when you claim work experience points for your qualifications, even let's say qualifications, certain a bachelor's degree, will that be recognized to claim the 10 points or not? So this is very, very important that that you don't make these common mistakes during your application process. Okay, so I'm going to leave. We are coming up to almost about an hour of 45 minutes, but I'm going to keep as many possibilities. I understand that our panelist is also on Zoom. It's my country manager, Angelo, assisting me with some of the questions, but I'm happy to take as many questions as it's necessary. Coming to a conclusion, recap on the key points. The general skill migration allows skilled workers from countries to request permanent residency. That's what it's all about. They have to meet the age criteria, English criteria, work experience criteria, and qualification. It's based on points. Different visa categories are there. It is really important to follow guidelines. As I just made a very simple, very simple example I took about work experience. Look, if somebody comes to me, I have to look at the book and find out, okay, this is the occupation. How does the work experience work on this? So it is something that, and the accurate information. Please never give any wrong information to the department, knowingly or unknowingly. You'll ask unknowingly, please. It's very important. I have come across the department making decisions to refuse a visa, which had got nothing to do with the criteria. Nothing to do with the criteria. Of all the criteria was fine, but they might have given incorrect information saying that, you know, I never lived in Dubai. I only lived in Sri Lanka. Or so I'm not talking about simple mistakes or spelling mistakes or something, but mistakes of that nature. Where you live doesn't matter where for your general skill migration application. But if you don't declare where you live and you didn't provide the police report, that's a problem. So accurate information must be given. Let's see whether there are any other things that I missed out there. No. And most important is to present information that does not confuse your case manager. I'll take one classic example. This is not about general skill migration. This is about on business migration. A client came to me. He had everything, and his migration agent has done everything right, but the department has refused. In a tax return, which in Sri Lanka, this is related to a Sri Lankan tax return, where they say income, they mean actually the taxable income. But on Australia, income is turnover. And this gentleman had to show certain turnover of his business criteria. And just the migration agent, who was not an accountant, unfortunately, just gave this tax return. The case officer looks at it and said, hey, the income is X amount, much less than what he had claimed for. Visa refused. Very sad situation. So really important that when you give the information to a case officer, make it as easy as possible. If there are confusing information, provide supporting documents and clearly explain what it is. Yes, right. Now let's move on, and we have questions and answers. I just want to, before questions answered, I have put a map there with all our branches in Australia, in Colombo, in the Gulf, and in UK. I will also have, please take this opportunity clearly to take your smartphones and click on it, and that will give you the subscription to our newsletter. I'm going to keep this screen on for a little while before I go back to the questions and answers, for people to have a quick look at our officers' contact details, and most importantly, to scan this picture so that you would be able to get and sign receive our subscribe to our newsletter. So our head office in Canavindra Close with the city office in the Melbourne City Queen Street office. For people in the Gulf, we have the one tower in Aticom in Basha Heights and managed by a great team. And in Sri Lanka, it will be in Kotte. We have at 565 with plenty of parking. Go and meet the people out over there. Also in UK. It is, I'm sorry, it is not British Columbia, it is Britain. There's a typo. My apologies to that. Yeah. So let me go back to the questions and answers. Now, overwhelming number of questions. Now, I would like to that some of these questions would be answered by our panelists. Please remember, we have at the moment almost about 50 questions going, so please bear with. Now, just going back to, I'm going to minimize this and going back to, could you please, if you could see the screen, please look at the bottom of each of these presentations. It has inquiries@sanjicaldera.com. If your questions were not answered today, we'll endeavor to get back to you, and you will feel free to meet our relationship managers, send off an information request, make an appointment, go and have a chat, send their CV, or send your questions to them. Right. So let's look at questions and answers, which are. I have a very long question. I'm writing an inquiry about possibility of submitting an expression of interest. Try to make the questions very brief, just to the respect of all the others. And my wife and I are interested in applying for 482 and a 189. 482 is what we call, it's not a, it's temporary skill shortage visa, which is sponsored by an employer, and the 189 is independent. Yes, it doesn't complement each other. 482 is an employer sponsorship, and 189 is independent. But please, you can run. If your question is, a question is, could you run it simultaneously? Yes, you could run it simultaneously. Not a problem at all. Okay. Then office location in Colombo is 565 Queen Street, 565 Kotte Road in Kotte. Anybody in Melbourne will be 180 Queen Street. And please just drop an email to the inquiries, and there'll be somebody suitable who will get in touch. I have 7 for listening, reading and speaking, and 6.5 writing in 8. Can I do writing in, and to obtain? Yes, you can. Please, there'll be certain specific visa categories you can do with IELTS only. They'll give one more opportunity for you to do that particular subject. Yes. Is employer nomination, is it free? Not too sure the question. It's not free in the sense that employers do need to pay the government as what we call a Skilling Australia fund. As I mentioned, you'll recall that I said that for the fact that the employer is going in for a foreign employee, therefore they have to pay a Skilling Australia fund a payment. And that is different for the 482 temporary skill shortage visa, and it's different for the ENS. Can I apply for 189 while I'm dependent for my husband's 482? Yes, absolutely. Not an issue at all. I'm 45 plus, bank manager over 22 years. I'm sorry, Abdul, when you go past 45, it's absolutely impossible, but never say impossible, because you can go through employer nomination, but you need to have you have to be in the medium to long term. This bank, the profession of bank managers do not come under the long-term skill occupation list. Right? Can we apply for AITSS collection ourselves without an agent? Certainly you could. Nothing to stop you, but obviously present the information and make sure that you meet the criteria, because they don't refund if you're unsuccessful. I have a double degree with job experience. Can I do 2 assessments? Yes, you can. Absolutely no issue, depending on whether you have got work experience or whether you have occupations that do not require work experience, right? Can you please explain how applied through a blood relation sponsorship? Very good question, Isru. It is there, but it's not there. What I'm saying is it's there for a 491 visa. If your occupation is in the long-term skilled occupation list, and if you have a cousin, a brother-in-law, sister-in-law, siblings, grandfather, grandparents, if they do live, who are permanent residents who live in Australia, but they have to be living in regional Australia. And that is a 491 family sponsor. I was only talking to you about 491 state sponsorship. It is 491 family sponsorship, but very, very low chance of getting an invitation. How can we register with your database? Please get in the Employee Nomination Australia. What should we do for that? Good question. Just go through inquiries and say that we'd like to be registered. We are developing this database. As I said, no obligation, no cost. If I get a 482 granted, I apply for a 186 without saying for 3 years with the same employer. Yes, you can. You can. 186 has two different streams. One is called the transitional scheme and one is called the direct entry. Transitional, you need to be with the same employer for 3 years. That's transitional. Direct entry means you have got 3 years of work experience with this particular employee and other employees too. Hi, I'm a nursing officer with BSc. Which category of IELTS should I do? Academic or general? Also, can you explain after registration process? Nursing is a very tricky occupation. Nursing, you need to come to Australia and do a conversion course. Can the demand for teachers decrease within the next 6 months? That's not something that I could tell you, but the demand for teachers has never decreased in the past 10 years. Now, yes, I think I've answered this question. That's about the 482 and the 189. Under which category financial analyst in demand? Kasun, please rephrase that question. Under which category financial analyst? It depends on whether it is more into IT or more into accounting. If someone gets a skill assessment, that's 4 years a skill, will the preceding work experience be counted automatically and points will be added? This is what I say. We need to look at the occupation. From occupation to occupation, how you claim work experience can be different. Right. And Abdul, I think I did answer your question. Can I apply for a UI while I was already in a student visa? Absolutely, you can. Definitely. So long you might have, before you came as a student to Australia or a student overseas, you might have had the work experience, you may have had the qualifications, can do. For a 190 visa option, do I need to submit a CDR? My BSc from Materials Engineering, University of Moratuwa, intake 2008, and MSc in Chemical Engineering, University of Moratuwa. Shashika, I would specifically ask you to send that information across through inquiries. Just make it attention Angelo Norton. That is because he is I call it the guru of engineers of Australia. Moratuwa University, yes, he needs to also check to see when did you finish your studies, because the accreditation from Washington Accord may have come before or after you have finished your studies. Very important. What is the demand for a project or program administrator? Look, IT, there is opportunities, but we need to look at your work experience and your qualifications. And at that time, what would be the demand? Which state will be willing to sponsor? All right. Look, please send me a rough idea about charges. I would prefer not to at the moment, because from a client to client, the professional fees will be different depending on their occupation, work experience, skill assessment, and so forth. But if you want a very, very approximate idea, the professional fees could be between, in some cases, as low as 3,500 Australian dollars, going up to maybe 5,000 to 5,500, depending on the complexity, and they are paid in stages as we do. I'm a registered nurse. Shama, as I said, need to do some conversion studies in Australia. please get in touch with us, and our student visa department will assist you. Is it a good thing to put my designation on passport when I renew it? Yes, but the department will not consider your designation whilst doing the general skill migration application. Can we get a presentation, and we do have any other details to we process visa types, payments, how many funds we need? Look, Chatura, we would like to first get in touch with us with your CV, and then we are happy to give the type of information that you would like, specific to what you qualify for. Registered nurse, can I apply a registered? As I said again, I've got a lot of questions on nursing, as is about that conversion has to be done in Australia, depending on, but certainly at a bachelor's degree level, you need to have to do the conversion. If I apply for 189 and offshore candidate, but go to Australia, but for it to application 189 is granted for me, but when we are in is granted and we cancel for, will there be issue? I'm not sure. No. Yeah, if you get a 189, it for everybody. Qualified masters in marketing from Sri Lanka government, but age 45 for this year, currently working as an assistant manager, world famous brand, certified as skilled mechanic, but no experience in the field. So unfortunately, because of the age of 45 and marketing being not on the long-term skill occupation list, the employer nomination, the transitional arrangement that we have for people with high wages for the 3 years will not be suitable for general skill migration. I was in Africa for 2 years. I'm not aware of a process to take a police report now. No, every country that you have been, we would have the links how and how to apply for a police report. So for our clients, wherever, whichever country, we would have a specific, because police reports can be different. The type of police reports can be different in countries. For the purpose of migration, we will send a particular link that you need to follow up. And sometimes you might want to apply and you are unsuccessful. We present that information to the department and get an exemption for your police report. Masters in University in Adelaide. This month, however, while I remain a student, I'm able to apply for a skill migration with my qualifications. Do I fall under onshore and offshore? You fall onto onshore. For deducted experience, how do I claim points for it? Is it a credible source? Is there any credible source? No, as I said, it is from occupation to occupation. Your work experience, the way you claim work experience will be different. What are the NVQ professions can follow from Sri Lanka? Look, there are mainly motor mechanics, auto electricians, carpenters, electricians, telecommunication technicians. These are some other things. Trishal, I'm 25 plus. I underwent a career change from finance to marketing. I recently completed my marketing bachelor's degree from Northumbria with a first class by BMS, where there's a chance of fresher graduate with zero related work experience or unrelated work experience of 1 year. No, if you're going through a marketing, you need to have a minimum of 1 year of related work experience. Hi, I'm Eranga working in Israel as a caregiver, and I would like to have a chance in moving on. As only a caregiver, no, Eranga, but please do send me, please send our inquiries, your CV. Depending on your age, we can see, because you have been a caregiver, can we determine a certain educational pathway in social work or welfare work that will finally get you permanent residency. Do you handle migration under 491, age up to 55 years of age? 491 people cannot apply. Their limit is 45 years of age. Can we get a sponsorship for IT business analyst? Hasala, please do register with us. I'm not making any promises, but we'll be in the future coming across many employers who is willing to. So if you're an IT person and got registered, what we would normally do is we will send your CV to our existing employers, because even if they don't have a vacancy, a vacancy can be created sometimes by looking at your skill set. Is there a deadline to apply for a 491 110? No, it's ongoing. It's ongoing. Hi, sir, any chance of a skill migration of teacher for primary education? Yes, you have to have 4 years of bachelor's or master's degree education and 1 year as in teacher training. Can we apply to RDA without waiting for an invitation from NSW? It is recommended for offshore applications. So can we apply? I'm not too sure that what that question is. Regional Development Authority. Yes, look, the New South Wales government is the regional, and I believe Angelo will type out an answer for that. Is there any chances of civil engineering technicians? Currently, I'm having diploma. Yes, definitely. Prasad, please feel free to send your CV. Is IELTS academic valid for skill migration? Yes, it is, Semini. It is IELTS academic and general are both valid for skill migration. Sasanka, is it possible to apply for a student visa if working visa gets rejected? That might be an issue, but so long as your student visa is genuine, yes, you can. Is it necessary to provide police reports of the country where I worked not more than 1 year? Yes, not necessary if you have if you're not lived in that country for 1 year or more. Do I have to do academic or general? Yeah, it depends. Certain occupations, yes, you need to have academic. Certain occupations, you need to have general. For a software engineer, age 29 with 4 years of relevant experience after degree, what visa subclass do you recommend? Will 1-800 for them? No. 189, 190, 49, all will be available. What's the most suitable visa criteria for a medical doctor with 2 years experience? Okay, so that is C. De Silva. You need to undertake your the Australian Medical Council AMC exam 1, come in for on a 482, work in Australia, then do the MC2 exam, then fully qualify and apply for permanent residency. 491, 3 years experience, electrician general, yes, it can be. I'm sorry, and archery coach, you can apply only for a 482, but that will not lead to permanent residency. But I had to go back. If for any reason that you are sort of national recognition as an archery coach, we have what you call is global talent visa, where in Australia a person with the accreditation or an institution involved with archery can nominate you. We still can look at what we call a global talent visa. Do you need to provide certified copies of certificates of wet tests for skill assessment as a food technician? Yes, you have to. Are you consulting free? I'm not too sure what the question is. You can get in touch with our relationship managers, and there will be no consultation fee with the relationship managers. My wife is a nursing officer with BSc. Which category of IELTS academic education? Also, can you explain our registration process? No, as I said, again, you need to do a conversion in Australia. Can you share a link to find information? Tiranta, what you do is you log on to the Australian Immigration Department website, and then log on to a 189 or 190 visa that will take you to the skill occupation. In order to obtain 5 points for your spouse English proficient under 189 category, should spouse skill assessment also be done? No, not necessary, only English. But if the spouse does a skill assessment and that skill assessment is in the medium to long-term list, yes, you get another 5 points. Civil engineering degree with 4 years experience, I hope you have opportunities. I don't as employers, but certainly you have migration opportunities. Yes, certainly. How much is your agent fee if I apply for 190? As I said, it could be between 3,500 to 5,500, but depending on the complexity of your application. I'm a chartered accountant with 8 years of experience, and I've been teaching A-level accounting in Institute 6 years. Can I claim points on my teaching experience to migrate as a tutor or a lecturer to get an invitation rather than migrating as an accountant? I complete my general. Yeah, look, very interesting question. You're a chartered accountant, you can't apply as a teacher because you don't have, if you don't have teacher qualification. At the Open University in Colombo, there is a 1-year postgraduate diploma in teaching. So first you have to have a bachelor's degree for 3 years and then undertake that course of postgraduate so that you complete 4 years. It's only then that you can apply as a teacher. How to register for your employee nomination program, business analyst? Again, please get in touch with us through inquiries@sanjicaldera.com. Yep. What is the age limit for a doctor, and do I have to do AMC? Yes, it depends on where you're qualified. If you were qualified in Sri Lanka, yes. If you were qualified in certain countries like UK or USA, you may not need to do the AMC exam. 190, can I work in the same industry but with a different employers? Would it count, or do I have to be the one employer? No. Once you get your permanent residence as a 190, you can work, not work, do any other job. You are a permanent resident. Can you explain about registering your database? Yeah, as I said, inquiries@sanjicaldera.com. I'm holding a student visa at the moment. Is it possible to get a 482 sponsor visa then could I stop studies? Yes, you can. Also, I have to AMC after migrate, or prior you need to do prior. Niroshan Sanjiva, will there be some limitation, decrease of skill migration with the number of people after July? I can't say that, Niroshan, but we really need a lot of people. This demand will at least stay for a year. Bhuminder, how about air conditioning mechanics with qualifications experience? Absolutely. For a 482, how about a license needed for electrical? No, not for air conditioning technician. RCS Amarsekara, I'm 37 years now. I apply for electrical engineering technician position for what state? For my dependent. What is the mark should I get function? Look, I think it's just best that that you do send your CV and try to make an appointment with a relationship manager. But please, I will really request all these people who do ask questions, and if they also decide to contact our office, we have been recently overwhelmed with inquiries. Please be patient. What is important is that our relationship managers will get to you. It might take a few days, or it might take a week. Please be patient. What is important is for them to take time over your application, not rush through, and look at all the information and give you a proper analysis and proper assessment. Right. And Lahiru, 32 years old, civil engineering professional with 6 years experience, national diploma in civil engineering and construction technology. What is the possibility of getting a chance of PR? Yes, as an engineering, civil engineering technician. Yes, not as a civil engineer, because you need a 4-year bachelor's qualification. Lawyers, Janit, interesting. Now, lawyers, yes, there is an opportunity. Just like nurses, just like doctors, you need to apply, you need to decide which state you want to come to. Let's say Victoria. So you need to apply to the Law Institute of Victoria. They will tell you what sort of additional studies that you need to do in order to qualify as a lawyer and to enter into the bar. Entrance into the bar equals skill assessment. So therefore, I will encourage you to get in touch with the Victorian Law Institute or New South Wales Law Institute, present your information and say, I want to migrate, I want to enter, then they will say, okay, these are the type of studies that you need to do. Once you get that information, come back to us and we will arrange a study program for you. How about chance of get a 491 from information and organization professionals? It is, look, just off the cuff, I can't tell you that, but I think our relationship managers will be better positioned once they really look at your information. Can I lodge an EOI while staying Aussie under student visa? Absolutely, yes. Can I apply for skill migration, Asanka? Can I apply for skill migration while living in Australia under student visa if I have a positive skill assessment? Yes, Asanka, I think I have answered this question a number of times. Nothing stops you from lodging an EOI if you have the points. What if you lodge an EOI for both 189 and 190 and get an intuition for 90 and we don't proceed? Do we have a chance of further 190 intuition? Yep, you're taking a very, very big chance, but yes. What is the AU government charges for 190? So there are different kinds of the state government sponsorship can charge you for the nomination between $200 to $300, but for a 190 for the visa application, it's approximately $4,000 for the main applicant, and half of that for the half of that for the spouse, and then quarter of that for the applicant. Just bear with me for one moment. All right. And yes, let's keep on going. Is there a demand for ICT project managers? Have done any cases previously? Certainly we do, and there is opportunity. And how about the Dharma? That's Tilina, that's a very open question. I could talk to you for days on the Dharma. Really not applicable to you, because you need to have a sponsor who has been approved by the Dharma program. Hi, I have experience in education management, not teaching, and this occupation is long-term or short-term. This occupation is in the short-term, and it's called education officer. Still, yeah. I'm sorry, even Angela is answering that question. Yep. All right. What about opportunities for lecturers and lawyers? Lecturers, yes, directly. Lawyers, as I previously explained, through the registering for the Bar Association, to the Law Institute, and then doing the qualification. Right. Let's keep going. Taridu, good afternoon. What about caregiver job in UK? At the moment, no, there is caregiver jobs in UK, but we are today talking about general skill migration for Australia. Would you provide recruitment services after we get the visa? No, when you do get the visa, we will only give you a guidance of yes, but quite happy to give you some guidance. Vatsala, I got an IESL degree to 20,000, currently working as an electrical superintendent in CEB now. Board, I'm 36 and reading for a PT. Please tell me my eligibility. Please, Vatsala, please do send your full assessment. It's very hard because, as I said, age, qualifications, work experience, IELTS, all that thing has to come together to talk about eligibility. Anonymous, what will count for a number of work experience years? One lodging skill assessment. It is service letter, EPF letter, or everything. Everything has to be given. Could you provide me some rough idea about the cost of 482 and 189 visas? No, it's not possible, because 482 visa has about 6 different types of costs. Some to be met by the employer, some to be met by the employee. It's a very open-ended question. We can only know. We can only know once we know whether you have an employer, or for the 189 visa, of course, you don't need an employer. Buddhika, HDNE enrolled for a job, they did the bachelor's at University of Vocational Technology, B Technology. I have 5 years experience. What will be the situation? Your situation will be good. Again, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. Please, you need to give all the information, and it's obligation free. Can engage our services or not engage, but the relationship managers will be happy to give you the opportunity. Deshani, can you please provide approximate fees about IT related designation and related skill assessment? Deshani, do drop an email to inquiries, and I'm happy to, one of the relationship managers will be happy to give you a proposal. Do you do unskilled migration visa too for the non-said? No, I don't, and we don't have pathways for unskilled workers. What are the opportunities to get a 491 information and organization professional? Yes, I said, Kamal, a very good chance. Manori, hi, I have applied for 476 2 years back, still under process. Would it be a problem to apply for these visa categories you explained here? Absolutely not. Your 476 should not take 2 years. Please make sure that your application is up to date. How is the demand for HR professionals in Australia? Limited, but it's possible. Short-term skill occupation is have to rely on a state government willing to sponsor. Marisha, banking and finance professional with more than 30 years continuous experience, under which category? I'm sorry, you're 51, more than 45. It is not possible for general skill migration. Anonymous, are there any opportunities in Australia right now for human resource skill related? And if applied for HR qualification, do we have to have experience from the same field? Yes, you do. What are the opportunities for human resources? Yes, same question, same answer. Normally, do all the assessment bodies are the same? No, they are different to each other. Is there a dashboard we can see online what skills in nominated region see opportunities? Not too sure what the question is. That yeah, if we know the occupation, then we can provide that information. Regarding 491 visa, is it possible to sponsor a sibling if I have a 491 visa? No, you can't. You have to get a permanent resident visa to sponsor your sibling. What is the minimum point for auditors? Is it within the 189? Yes, auditors are within the 189 and the 190. And I'm so sorry, Tarak, I can't give you, I don't have that information. It's important that you lodge an EOI and multiple EOIs and see whatever comes first. What opportunities available for Ayurvedic doctors with a 5-year degree? There are specific occupations, we may need to look at your CV. Krishan, I have a master's in humanities from a government university and service of more than 27 years in the defense. Are there any subclass category? Look, what we want to do is, yes, your master's in humanities and the service, we want to know what exactly your work experience in, and that means what occupation, and then that with that occupation has opportunities. Can we take our parents if we get any visa option in Australia? No, you can settle down in Australia and then sponsor your parents, so long as you meet the balance of family test, which means 50% or more of the siblings should be permanent residents or citizens of Australia. How much of money? As I said, no, you don't have to show any money, but you may have to show some funds to the state government to prove that when you come to Australia that you will be self-sufficient. Is there a good possibility to get a 189 as a teacher if I get 65 marks only and required marks is also 65? Yes. I was in Africa for 2 years, not aware of the process. Take a police report now. Kindly repeat the answer for this. Sorry, I missed it. I was in Senegal. Yeah, so what I'm saying is all the countries that need the police report, that we have the links that have been gazetted by the Department of Immigration or legislated, and then we go through that. We guide our clients to go through that process, and if they fail, then we'll ask for an exemption. Anonymous 37 currently working as an HR manager in a company. If I have 89 points, what is the possibility of getting a visa? Yes, your relationship manager will say which state will be willing to sponsor you. I'm not, Krishan, I'm not too sure what GPS stands. My apologies. My wife is a government, anonymous, my wife's a government teacher. She's holding a degree in applied science. Can she apply for MBA, or does AU have special visa for PR? Teachers have to have 1 year of teacher training, but she can apply for an MBA. I'm a business analyst. How do I register with your database? Please advise. At the bottom of our screen, inquiries at sanjicaldera.com. Sanjeeva, look, I'm not I wouldn't know how many invitation hours it will be there till. Yeah, it is now very frequently it's happening. What are the chances of Sri Lankan lawyers comparing to other portion? Yeah, as I said, I think if you listen, lawyers can come, apply to the bar association. They'll tell you what the conversion amount courses that you need to do, yeah, to qualify. Sahan, I hold a master's degree in energy management. Is it possible to do another master's degree in project management? Yes, you can. Deepti, I'm 43 years female, secondary geography teacher, 14F plus. Can I apply? Yes, so long as you have a teacher qualification. Registered nurse with the BSc, is there any chance to work as a caregiver? Not in Australia. EPF, ETF tax document mandatory to prove work experience and bank statements and pay slips. There are times that depending on which skill assessing body, you may be able to get through. Occupation is a lawyer. I have LLB. Yeah, I think I have explained how lawyers can apply. Yes, Sanjeev, Sanjeev, most probably I really encourage you to not to have multiple questions, because if you do have multiple questions, I suggest that you do come send your CV and come and have a chat, because in respect to all the others who have a lot of questions, yeah, please don't ask multiple questions. Do we need to work experience for past assessment with the NVQ5? I have no experience. Yes, you have to have work experience. I have an MBA in taxation. What is the most suitable for criteria for tax as a tax accountant? But you need to have the mandatory subjects that are set out by the CPA to be a tax accountant. Most of skill assessments take longer time than these days. Is it available? The test is fast track within 10 days? Yes, it is. Limited circumstances. Can a primary teacher with a diploma teacher training with 9 years experience? No, have to have a bachelor's. Budwin, from what we should get our certificate certified? It depends, Budwin. Sometimes you could actually have to give original certified copies or copies of the original document. Banking and professional. Look, we will take some questions up to for the next 15 or 20 minutes. As I said at the very beginning, questions are unlimited. We'll answer as many questions as possible. That if you do have these questions, to please send it to inquiries. And generally, again, as I said, sometimes very short questions cannot be answered without looking at the complete picture. Marisha, a banking and finance professional. Yeah, as I said, I think I answered only up to 45. Is there any possibility to sit IIM's exams or medical laboratory scientists in Sri Lanka? Chandima, I do not know that. I do not know that, but what I do know is that the skill assessment is done in AIMS. Yeah, please send that your information. Chandana, leasing industry, yes, so long as you have got accounting experience. Chartered accountant, 10 plus years, Sampath, 10 years experience, BSc, MBA. I want to know the possibility of applying under any subclass, very high success rate you'll have, and all the subclasses 189, 190, and 491. Irosha Karnangara, yes, a diploma, a 2-year diploma recognized by the Australian authorities. Sri Lal Gamini, do you have a good class to do a PT and NATI? Yes, we can recommend. Madhusha, for teachers, do HV to IELTS general or academic. Is that all degrees should need 4 years to qualify in AQF? No. Some degrees only 3 years, certain for teachers 4 years, engineers 4 years, it depends. Claudine, to submit my 190, do you have to work with that one employer, or do my service with different employers count for 1 year work experience? Yes, different employers. I believe you're in Australia, so yes, different employers can be working. Anonymous, my wife did 3 years applied science and biological science. She's now teaching for 5 years following the education diploma in excellent. Once she completes, they can apply. Yes, absolutely, on the right track. I have an employer who's willing to sponsor me. Is it able to work with you to get through? Certainly you can. Please send your information and specifically send your CV and say that your employer is willing to sponsor. Copy that email to your sponsor employer, and I'm happy to have a chat and explain the process. How many months salary payments by bank statement should you allow for wet tests when doing skill assessment as a food assessment? So we take what we call a sample of pay slips, but it should cover the periods that you're covering. So let's say that you are going to claim for 7 years. All through the 7 years, you can give a sample each. What could be processed in time for a 186 direct entry, depending on the occupation, depending whether it's offshore, onshore. I'm Nadika, done a high diploma in professional caregiver along with 2 years done PG healthcare. Can I get a care? No, not with Australia. Can you secure sponsorship from Edgar Sampat? Sampat, what I said is we are happy to register your CV with our database. If something comes up, definitely. If I apply for a student visa MSc after submitting an EOI for skill migration, will there be? No, there won't be. Swarmaya Gapera is teaching included in the first list of professions. Yes. Where one, what is the above age to apply for family sponsorship? 491, 45 years. Tiranta, Mr. Caldera, how is the demand for poultry section in Australia? Does the poultry section fall under skill occupation list? Yes, there are a few agricultural agricultural technicians, agriculturists. If you have a bachelor's degree, we would like to know your profile. How about migration for a lawyer? You don't have to contact us. As I said, contact the Law Institute of Victoria or Law Institute of New South Wales or any state law institute, and they will guide you of the necessary amount of education that you should have, and then come back to us and we will place you in an education institution. I received a monthly allowance, not a salary. Can I get a skill assessment done as a food technologist? It depends on what the monthly allowance is, how many hours you work, and so forth. And we can have a look at that. I've completed my nursing diploma and I'm 27 years old, graduated and have 1 year of work experience. Do I have a chance to work as a nurse or caregiver? No, as we need to have a bachelor's degree. Please bear with me for one moment till I yeah, sorry about that. Let me have a glass of water and we'll help you with the other questions. Right. Amanda, I've completed my nursing diploma. Yes, sorry, as I said, we need to have a bachelor's degree. Natasha, isn't there any chance of marketing professions in Australia? There is. Certainly there is. From we have got many invitations on the 491. And there was, I remember that I got a couple of clients who both got from South Australia and from New South Wales on a 190 permanent residency. Please get on to it as soon as possible. Of course, you have to have a degree, Natasha, in marketing. I have a business management degree, and my relatives has business in Australia, and am I eligible to migrate to same community? Yes, it all depends on your occupation and what your relative, what is the business it runs, and what is the connection it has. Yes. Employees not. Sorry, I have a bank. I have a business management degree, and yeah, that's as I said. Marisha, I have a banking profession 30 plus. I think Marisha, I have explained 45 is the main age. Odata, what about chance of sales manager with experience of 9 years in Sri Lanka? Currently, I'm holding position as CEO as a bunkering manager. Yeah, absolutely. It all depends on your qualifications and look at the possibility. Anonymous, if I do have the skill assessment as a food technologist first and got rejected, can I do the university lecture category after 2 to 3 years time? You can, but remember, you cannot write anything different because VTSS will have your information. You failed as a food technologist, that's fine. After 1 or 2 years you were lecturing, they will take it on the information provided. But you can't change anything what you already provided. Nadika, 42 years, professional caregiver in Australia. I've done it. No, unfortunately not in Australia. Nilakshya, the same answer, not for a caregiver. What are the chances of skill migration as a logistics manager? Look, Chandima, you have to have it at a very senior level as a logistics and supply chain manager, we call it. It has to be at a very high level because we don't have the secondary, like let's say sales and marketing manager at a high level, marketing specialist at a lower level. We don't have that for logistics. So if it's at a higher level, yes, we can have a look. Refrigeration, air conditioning opportunities, plenty of opportunities. And you can send, we have employers who are willing to employ you on a sponsorship. Banking, if you're an investment banker, investment advisor, or a branch manager, I'm sorry, let me. As a bank manager, very less opportunities, but there's a occupation called financial institution branch manager, but it is could be very hard to get through, but it is possible. Quality assurance, yes, quality assurance manager quality assurance managers are in the occupations in Australia. IT project manager, Achille, yes. Oh, with a higher diploma, no, because they take a lot of, they need more and more work experience for people who don't have a bachelor's degree. For a software engineer under skill migration, what are the best regional states and with enough IT jobs? What's the current trend from your experience? It's a very open question. So software engineers will be across for all, mostly all what we call states. Sarindi, my husband is a chartered accountant, 5 years experience in the banking sector, holds BSc Finance special degree. What will be the demand possibility? Very high. Is it able to count assistant manager experience under manager occupancy? It does depend on the type, the size of the organization and your role. Medical professional 52, can I apply? No, can't apply for a 492. You can apply for a 482. Pamatician, I have 19 years human in social work, 44 social science, but you can just, social work is very high, but have to do it before 45 as a social worker. Is there a demand for childcare assistants or nursery teachers? Nursery teachers, yes, required qualification will be 4 years at a bachelor's degree, which also includes teacher education. I have a cousin who is going to apply for in Australia PR. Once PR approved, can he sponsor my family? Yeah, as I said, your occupation, they have to live in a regional Australia. After 2 years of being a PR, yes, they could, and you have to have an occupation in the medium to long-term list. Prabhat, I think the question I answered about bank managers would also apply to you. Jumli, my salary slip doesn't reflect the company name because my company bank and my personal bank is different. It appears as a salary. Will there be a problem? Jumli, it all depends on what the occupation is. ACS, if it's IT, it's a bit hard. Right. Gentlemen, what we will do is we will go on for the next 5 and a maximum 5 to 7 minutes before we conclude this webinar. Since, as I said, we had an unprecedented number of people, unprecedented number of people attend this seminar and many others on Facebook and all that. So therefore, as I said, I may not be able to answer all the questions. I've done it my very level best to give you very, very quick answers on whatever information we have provided. If you want a detailed analysis, a detailed assessment, please, there is no obligation. Just come, visit, have a chat with our relationship managers and provide your information, but they are overwhelmed at the moment. So please give them some time. Please be patient. They will get back to you. What is the more chance of getting an internship onshore, offshore? No, there is no difference. Chartered accountant, Sumudini, chartered accountant, 14 years experience. Can I apply for visa in Australia? 831, excellent, plenty of opportunities. Working as an electrical superintendent at its eligible 14 years, 42 years. Can I apply for 49? Yes, so long as you got your qualifications. Chartered qualifications in HR, through CIPM is accredited, yes. It will be under a HR professional. I'm civil engineering graduate and 26 years. My wife is a graduate of University of Columbia and her close relations, also permanent residents in Australia. My wife has spent 2 masters in Australia. I had to migrate, so depend. Should I need IELTS? Look, if you're a civil engineering graduate, you should be looking at general skill migration. However, if you're decided to do a master's, if your wife has decided to do master's, that's well and good, but you can keep on applying and looking at the opportunities that will give you permanent residency. Yes, nurse need to have a bachelor's and convert the studies in Australia, sorry. Research assistant, research assistant, master's in a philosophy degree, research, and I received a monthly allowance of working 40 hours per week. Can I do a, yes, please bring in that information. There could be a possibility. How long does a SMS, is SMS active? I'm not too sure what the question is. I'm sorry. How are the chances for insurance managers? Yes, under short-term skill occupation list. Thank you, Sanjay. I will process it seriously this year. I'm also doing IELTS, which will sooner. Yep, you're welcome. Glad to be help. Be a help. What is the minimum fund we need to do family BR migration? As I said, you don't need to show funds unless and otherwise for a state government. From state government to state government, it will be different. Right. My husband is a medical doctor. Yes, can I apply for a 482 without with AMC, please? Yeah, and do non-licensed medical job and ask for PR? No. If you're going to do a 482, yes. Yeah. Excellent. Right. We have covered as much. Look, my answers would have been very brief, as you please understand. There's been never-ending amount of questions. I sincerely hope that this GS General Skill Migration Seminar, which is at a timely manner, was helpful to you, and it's a very a nice saying from the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Yes, we dream. I did dream of going to Australia, and you need to follow your dreams, because Australia is a country of absolute opportunity. It's a very fair country. I've lived here for 35 years and do not regret one bit. You bring your culture, we bring our culture, whether it's the food, whether it's the religion, and they are most accommodating. It is. I always tell my clients who have got their visas, either you have to be very, very blessed to be born in this country or have the opportunity. And the good thing is the country encourages many migrants. There is not a country that people have not come and migrated to Australia, and whatever age, but they have their rules and regulations, and we have to tick all the boxes, and we are there to help you. Once again, I'm going to bring up this scan. Please feel free to take a photograph and then log in so that you could get our newsletter. Right. Excellent. And I'm happy to answer another few more questions around to this point. Right. Tanya, you have said Angelo, give Angelo a little bit of time, Tanya, and now that you have put it on this, he'll make sure he'll send you a reply. And I will go through some of the question. How long does the skill migration system inactive? Is there a close date? The expression of interest is for 2 years, but you can keep on renewing it. There is a thank you for a lot of your time and effort. It's been an absolute pleasure helping anyone who wants to migrate. I mean, as I said, there would be some people who are already in the system and who has applied, and still, if they would like to get some second opinion, feel free. and there'll be people who have large expressions of interest and not too sure whether they're on the correct thing, we can assist, and people who have recently thought of this option. Yeah, happy to answer. On a final note, for other people in Sri Lanka, happy Independence Day, and all the others who have joined us from around the world. Please keep safe, and hope you have a blessed day. Thank you very much.